My own sister Chloe. Her eyes cold steel, she told me I didn't have it firing me from the empire I'd bled for. She had no clue her ambition just handed me the keys to her ruin, and my fingers were already tightening. For 15 long years, I was Ethan Miller, the ghost in the machine of Skyreach hotels. While my sister, Chloe, preened and posed for magazine covers, her name synonymous with our empire, I was the one down in the engine room, sleeves rolled up, covered in metaphorical grease, making sure the whole damn thing didn't just fall apart. Every late-night crisis, every impossible guest demand, every logistical nightmare that would have sent Chloe into a tailspin, that landed on my desk. And I handled it. Quietly. Efficiently. You're the bedrock, Ethan, Dad used to say, a warm hand on my shoulder, his eyes, unlike Chloe's, holding a genuine understanding. Chloe's the flair of the face, but you're the foundation. I clung to those words, especially after he was gone. They were a comfort, a reason for the endless hours, the missed birthdays, the life that seemed to be happening just outside the window of my office. I remember him, clear as day, sitting in his worn leather chair, the scent of old books and pipe tobacco clinging to him. He wasn't a flashy man, not like the image Chloe later cultivated for Skyreach. He was solid. Grounded. Ethan, he'd said, his voice low and gravelly, a sound that still echoes in my quietest moments. They can build all the shiny towers they want, darling. They can stack him to the moon, but the real power, the forever power, it ain't in the fixtures or the fur count of the sheets. It's in the dirt they stand on. Own the land. Son, always, always own the land. Chloe, she never got that. Too earthy for her, I suppose. She was all about the vision, the brand expansion, the next glamorous acquisition that would get her name in the headlines. The actual ground beneath our most profitable hotels. That was just an expense line to her, a boring detail handled by the finance department or, more accurately, by me. She never once dug into those lease agreements, never questioned who held the deeds. Why would she? She was too busy soaring. And I let her. For years, I was content, or maybe I just told myself I was. Emily, right? You do what needs to be done. I saw her ambition, that burning hunger in her eyes. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me, not with sisterly affection, but with a flicker of what was it? Impatience? Like I was a sturdy, reliable, but ultimately an exciting piece of furniture she couldn't wait to upgrade. Oh, Ethan will handle the nitty-gritty, she'd wave dismissively in meetings before launching into her grand, sweeping plans that often overlooked the cracks I was constantly patching. Did I resent it? Deep down, a part of me, the part that remembered being a kid with dreams of my own, maybe it did. But I pushed it down. This was Dad's legacy. Skyreach was his dream, and I was his caretaker. Chloe was his daughter, and I guess I thought protecting her ambition was part of protecting him. Stupid, right? She just needs to learn, I tell myself. She'll see the value in the foundations eventually. Oh, how wrong I was. She didn't want to learn, she wanted to conquer. And if I was in the way, even as the one holding everything up, she'd just bulldoze right through me. Or so she thought. That advice from Dad about owning the land? It wasn't just a business tip. It was a lifeline. And Chloe, in her sky-high ambitions, never saw me quietly reaching for it, year after year. The email arrived on a Tuesday. Just a single line, Ethan, my office, 3 p.m., Chloe. No pleasantries, no hope you're having a good day. Just a summons. My gut clenched. This wasn't her usual MO for a quick question or routine update. This felt different. Heavy. I spent the next few hours replaying every recent decision, every project, every damn financial report, looking for a misstep, a loose end she could grab onto. Nothing. Everything was humming. The occupancy rates at our 3 flagship hotels, the ones I practically bled to keep profitable through thick and thin, were at an all-time high. The engine room was purring. Walking into her office felt like stepping onto another planet. Where mine was functional, hers was a monument to her own ego. Gleaming chrome, abstract art that probably cost more than my yearly salary, and a panoramic view of a city she now considered her kingdom. She was perched behind a massive mahogany desk, not Dad's old, comforting oak, but something sharp, modern, and imposing. She didn't even look up when I came in, just waved a perfectly manicured hand towards one of the ridiculously uncomfortable designer chairs. Ethan, she began, finally gracing me with her attention, her voice smooth as polished glass, but with an edge that could cut. We need to talk about the future of Skyreach. My heart hammered against my ribs. Okay, I said, trying to keep my own voice even. What about it? She leaned back, a slight, almost pitying smile playing on her lips. The kind of smile that made you want to wipe it off her face. Skyreach needs a recalibration, Ethan, a fresh perspective, new energy. I could feel the floor dropping out from under me. And what does that mean, Chloe, for me? She sighed, a delicate theatrical sound. It means, Ethan, that your role here has become redundant. Redundant. After 15 years. After building this empire brick by bloody brick while she flitted from gala to photo shoot. The word echoed in the sterile silence of her office, cold and final. I stared at her, my mind a maelstrom of disbelief and a white-hot rage that was starting to bubble just beneath the surface. Redundant? I finally managed, my voice dangerously quiet. Chloe, I ***Skyreach. I handle everything you don't even know ***exists**. Her smile tightened. Oh, Ethan, always so dramatic. You've been a steady hand for a long time, but the company needs to evolve. We need dynamism, innovation, things that, frankly, aren't your strong suit. The sheer audacity of it stole my breath. This, from the woman who once called me in a panic because her private jet's Wi-Fi wasn't working. My strong suit. I could hear the tremor in my voice, a mix of fury and a deeper, aching hurt. My strong suit is making sure this empire you swan around in doesn't crumble into dust. My strong suit is fixing the messes your dynamism creates. That's precisely the problem, she said, her voice turning colder, sharper. You're stuck in the past, Ethan, in Dad's way of doing things. Skyreach needs to look forward, not be anchored by sentimentality. Sentimentality. She was calling Dad's legacy, his life's work, sentimentality. The image of him, his warm hand on my shoulder, you're the bedrock, Ethan, flashed in my mind, and the pain was a physical blow. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was a betrayal of everything he stood for, everything I dedicated my life to upholding. You can't be serious, I whispered more to myself than to her. Oh, I'm perfectly serious, she replied, her eyes like chips of ice. Your services are no longer required. Security will escort you out. Don't worry, your severance package is adequate. Adequate. For 15 years of my life. For the missed birthdays, the sleepless nights, the soul-crushing responsibility. My fist clenched under the table. I could feel the blood pounding in my ears. I wanted to scream, to rage, to smash that smug, condescending look off her face. But then, something else, something cold and sharp, cut through the anger. Dad's voice, low and gravelly, on the land, son, always on the land, Chloe was still talking, something about new leadership and exciting directions, but her voice faded into a dull buzz. My mind raced. The lease renewals. The 3 prime properties. The ones whose ground she'd never bothered to understand. The ones I, through a series of quiet, perfectly legal transactions over the years, using funds Dad had wisely set aside for me, now controlled. The actual earth beneath her glittering towers. She thought she was cutting me loose. She thought she was taking control. The irony was so thick, so potent, it almost made me laugh. She was prattling on about her vision, about how this was a necessary step for the company. I'm sure you'll land on your feet, Ethan, she said, with that dismissive wave of her hand. You are reliable. I stood up, the uncomfortable chair scraping against the polished floor. The rage was still there, a burning coal in my chest, but it was overlaid now with a chilling clarity. She looked at me, expecting what? Fleeting? Anger? Defeat? She saw none of it. You have no idea what you've just done, Chloe, I said, my voice calm, almost serene. It seemed to unnerve her more than any outburst would have. A flicker of something uncertainty crossed her face for a split second before her mask of cool superiority snapped back into place. I know exactly what I'm doing, Ethan. I'm saving this company from stagnation. Saving it. Right. As I walked towards the door, the clock in my head started ticking. Not on my career. Oh no. The clock was ticking on asterisk. On Skyreach as she knew it. The lease renewals for our 3 most profitable hotels were coming up in 6 months. 6 months for her to realize that the fresh perspective she so desperately craved was about to become a catastrophic, multi-million-dollar blind spot. She thought she was finally in control, my sister, the glamorous face of the empire. She was about to find out that the bedrock she just dismissed was actually the ground she was standing on. And it was about to shift. The emergency board meeting. My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat counting down to detonation. 6 months. 6 long months I'd waited, watching Chloe strut around, so damn-sure of herself, so oblivious to the abyss yawning right at her feet. The air in the boardroom was thick enough to choke on, every pair of eyes fixed on me. Chloe, at the head of the polished mahogany table in newer, even more ostentatious version than the one in her office, radiated icy displeasure. She hadn't called this meeting. I had, through the panicked, now sidelined old guard members who still held enough sway. Ethan, she began, her voice dripping with condescension, I trust this emergency is truly worth disrupting our quarterly projections. Her smirk was razor-sharp. Or is this just another display of sentimentality? Sentimentality. There it was again. That word she used like a weapon, the one that had echoed in my head since that god-awful day in her office. I took a slow breath, the scent of expensive wood polish and stale fear filling my lungs. This was it. No turning back. All the night I'd replayed her words, a dismissive wave, her ice chip eyes had all led to this moment. Actually, Chloe, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, resonating in the sudden quiet. It's about the bedrock, the actual, physical land Sky Reach's 3 most profitable hotels are built on. A confused murmur rippled through the room. Chloe's perfectly sculpted eyebrows arched. And what about it, Ethan? Those leases are ironclad. We've had them for decades. She looked almost bored, like I was wasting her precious time. That's true, I agree, letting a small tight smile touch my lips. A smile that didn't reach my eyes, because deep down, this whole thing still ripped at something raw inside me. The original leases, signed by Dad, were indeed ironclad. But leases, as you know, or perhaps you don't know, Chloe, come up for renewal. I pause, letting the weight of it sink in, watching her carefully, and the ground Sky Reach stands on, the very earth beneath the Royal, the Grand, and the waterfront well, I own it. The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear a pin drop, then the collective, sharp intake of breath around the table. Chloe's face, for a fleeting second, was a mask of pure, unadulterated shock, her mouth falling slightly open before she scrambled to recover. Her knuckles were white where she gripped the edge of that monstrous table. You're lying, she hissed, her voice losing its polished veneer, cracking just a little. That's impossible. Is it? I countered, my gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of the board. Mr. Henderson, Dad's oldest friend and a man I'd always respected, was staring at me, his jaw slack. Dad always said, own the land, son, always own the land. He set up a trust for me years ago with very specific instructions. I just acted on his advice, quietly, legally. I looked directly at Chloe, locking eyes with her, daring her to call me a liar again. Something you, in your haste to recalibrate and bring in new energy, clearly overlooked in your due diligence, or perhaps you just didn't care about such mundane details as who actually owns the dirt your kingdom is built on. Her face was flushing a dangerous shade of red, splotches appearing on her neck. This is an outrage, a conflict of interest. You can't. Oh, I can. I cut her off, the calm I felt almost serene, chilling even to myself. The white-hot rage from that day in her office had cooled, hardened into something sharper, more precise. And speaking of conflicts of interest, Chloe, that brings me to my next point. My hand trembled slightly as I reached into my briefcase, pulling out a sleek, glossy brochure. I tossed it onto the table. It slid across the polished surface, coming to a halt right in front of her. Kessler Vision, I announced, my voice ringing with a clarity that surprised even me, cutting through the tense atmosphere like a blade. The logo was a stylized K intertwined with a V, sharp and aggressive. Kessler, her maiden name, the one she'd started using more prominently after Dad passed. Her vision. Recognize it, sis? I asked, the word sis a deliberate twist of the knife, leaden with all the years of unspoken resentment of being the invisible cog in her glamorous machine. Your new venture, your fresh perspective, a competing hotel chain designed to rise from the ashes of Sky Reach. Gasps, louder this time. Whispers turned into shocked exclamations. People were leaning forward, craning their necks. What in God's name is this, Ethan? Mr. Henderson demanded, his voice hoarse, his eyes wide with disbelief as he picked up a copy of the brochure I'd also placed before him. This, I said, gesturing to the dummy evidence, then to Chloe, who looked like she'd seen a ghost, is a meticulously planned hostile takeover from within. Chloe's grand strategy wasn't just to fire me, the redundant brother, it was to systematically devalue Sky Reach, drive down the stock, create chaos, then have Kessler Vision swoop in and acquire our prime assets my prime assets, as it turns out for pennies on the dollar. The evidence was all there to shell corporations I'd painstakingly traced, the quiet poaching of Asterisk top executives she hadn't already alienated with her arrogance, the diverted resources, the whispers I'd heard and followed down a rabbit hole of deceit. I'd spent 6 agonizing months digging, every new revelation another shovel of dirt on the grave she was digging for the company Dad poured his life into. Chloe was on her feet now, sputtering, her voice shrill. This is slander. These are preposterous accusations. He's just bitter because I fired him. He's trying to destroy me. But her eyes darted around the room like trapped animals, looking for an ally, an escape that wasn't there. The bravado was gone, replaced by desperate, cornered fear. She was unraveling, thread by thread. And then I saw it. Not literally, not a ghost in the room, but I felt it, deep in my soul, a profound ache. I pictured Dad, his honest, kind face, the way his eyes would crinkle at the corners when he was proud, the deep lines of worry when things were tough. And as I looked at Chloe, at her crumbling facade, at the avarice laid bare, I saw the reflection of that disappointment, the ultimate betrayal of everything he'd stood for. The look of utter betrayal on our father's face, as vivid as if he were standing right there between us, watching his legacy be torn apart by his own daughter's naked, consuming ambition. He trusted you, Chloe, I said, my voice dropping, thick with a sorrow that cut through the anger, a sorrow for what our family had become. We all did. The room was a tableau of stunned, horrified faces. The powder kick hadn't just been lit, it had exploded, and the fallout was settling, heavy and suffocating, right on top of Chloe. She looked small, suddenly stripped of her power, her carefully constructed image shattering around her like cheap glass. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No smooth words, no cutting remarks left. Just the raw, ugly truth hanging in the air, exposed for everyone to see. And in that moment, amidst the wreckage of her ambition, I knew I hadn't just revealed her treachery. I'd finally taken back the narrative. The game wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the board and my sister finally knew who they were really dealing with. The bedrock wasn't so sentimental after all. For a beat, Chloe just stared, her chest heaving, the accusation of betraying Dad hanging there like a shroud. But then a flicker. That damn resilience, the pure, unadulterated brass that had always defined her, sparked back to life in her eyes. She visibly pulled herself together, a general rallying her last, decimated troops. "All right," she spat, her voice raspy but regaining some of its old command. "So, the land, Ethan's little surprise." She waved a dismissive hand, as if my lifelong ace in the hole was a mere party trick. "Fine, but let's be pragmatic. Skyreach is now in an untenable position with its 3 flagship properties. They are sitting on land controlled by ***. She flicked her eyes towards me, venom still dripping. The value of those hotels to Skyreach has just plummeted. The uncertainty, the risk is catastrophic for the shareholders. She was pacing now, a shark circling, sensing blood or trying to create the illusion of it. The only logical step, the only responsible move for this board, she declared, her gaze sweeping over them, trying to reassert her dominance, is to divest, cut our losses, sell the Royal, the Grand, and the waterfront immediately. A murmur of panicked agreement started to ripple. Some board members, the weaker ones, the ones always looking for the easiest way out, were nodding. My stomach tightened. She was good, I'll give her that. Twisting the knife, Asterisk just plunged into her back and trying to use it to carve out a win. And as it happens, she continued, a predatory gleam in her eye, Kessler Vision, despite these baseless attacks on my character, is prepared to make an offer, a quick, clean purchase. Yes, it'll be at a price reflecting the new, circumstances, a subtle smirk there, but it's a way out, a way to salvage something for Skyreach before even here decides to, I don't know, turn the land into a parking lot out of spite. I almost laughed. The sheer audacity. After everything, she was still trying to make Kessler Vision happen, trying to buy Dad's legacy hotels for pennies on the dollar using the very crisis she'd manufactured, now compounded by my revelation. For a moment, the memory of her in her office, so smug, so dismissive, you just don't have what it takes. Ethan, this is a new era, flashed before my eyes. Oh, this was a new era all right. Mr. Henderson looked at me, his face etched with worry. Ethan, is Skyreach, is that our only option? I let the silence stretch, just for a second, watching Chloe's desperate hope flicker. Actually, Chloe, I said, my voice cutting through her manufactured urgency, cool and level. There's already another offer on the table, a much better one that doesn't involve rewarding treachery. Her head snapped towards me, eyes narrowing. What are you talking about? I reached into my briefcase again, this time pulling out a different, far more substantial proposal. I didn't toss this one. I handed it respectfully to Mr. Henderson. Skyreach won't be selling to Kessler Vision, I stated, my gaze sweeping the room, then landing squarely on Chloe. Her face was a mask of disbelief, then dawning horror. Because, you see, for the past 4 months, while you were so busy trying to gut this company from the inside, I was busy ensuring its survival. I paused, letting the weight of it sink in. I've already negotiated a deal, a partnership actually, with Commonwealth Hotels. Asps. Real shuddering gasps this time. Commonwealth was our biggest, most respected competitor. The idea of them partnering with Skyreach, or acquiring key assets, was monumental. Chloe stumbled back a step, literally as if I'd struck her. Commonwealth, she whispered, the name tasting like ash in her mouth. You would to ***. I did, I confirmed. They, unlike some, appreciate the value of established properties with impeccable reputations. They appreciate loyalty and history. The deal ensures the hotels remain operational, every single staff member keeps their job, and Skyreach, as a whole, will benefit significantly from the alliance moving forward stronger, not weaker. I looked directly at Chloe, the last vestiges of any pity I might have felt evaporating. Your Kessler Vision, on the other hand, will find it remarkably difficult to acquire prime locations when its founder has just been exposed for corporate espionage and attempting to defraud her own family's company. The air crackled. Chloe's face, already pale, went chalk white. The carefully constructed walls of her ambition, her entire future as she'd envisioned it, were not just cracking anymore, they were imploding, collapsing into a pile of smoking, irreparable ruins right before her eyes. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. This was the checkmate I'd spent 6 months dreaming of. And it was even more satisfying than I'd imagined, not because of her pain, but because Dad's legacy, the real one, the one built on integrity, was safe. A year. 12 whole months. Felt like an eternity, and in some ways, maybe it was. The wind up here, on the rooftop terrace of what was now the Commonwealth Royal Dad's Royal, just better, stronger, it felt different. Blean. Like it had scoured away all the grime and the stink of betrayal from that last year with sky reach under Chloe's well under her. I leaned on the railing, the city sprawling out beneath me, a glittering carpet of lights. This view never got old. I wasn't hiding in the damn shadows anymore, that's for sure. Commonwealth. They actually saw me. Valued me. Turns out, overseeing the integration of Dad's flagship properties into their portfolio, ensuring his legacy was protected while making them shine even brighter, that was a role I could sink my teeth into. No more being the silent and think fixer. Here, my insights weren't just Ethan's little surprises, they were foundational strategies. It felt right. Like finally wearing clothes that actually fit after a lifetime in something too tight or too loose. Who knew actually being appreciated could feel this good? I wasn't just the behind-the-scenes guy anymore, I was a partner, a voice they listened to. And Chloe? Oh, Chloe. News has a funny way of seeping through the cracks, even when you're desperately trying to plaster them over. Kessler Vision. Remember that grand ambition? Sounded so powerful, didn't it? Last I heard, it was less of a vision and more of a ghost story whispered in bankruptcy court. A spectacular, fiery crash and burn. The banks had called in their loans, investors had scattered like cockroaches when the lights came on, all after the details of her methods became public knowledge. She tried to build an empire on stolen blueprints and broken trust, and it crumbled like a sandcastle against the tide. Poetic, in a tragic, entirely self-inflicted sort of way. Last I heard, she was trying to consult, but her name was pretty much mud in this industry. She'd aimed for the stars, all right, but ended up buried in the dirt she'd slung. I still saw her face sometimes, when I closed my eyes. That moment in the boardroom. The mask of arrogance shattering, piece by agonizing piece, until all that was left was this raw, gaping disbelief. For a fleeting second back then, a stupid, instinctive little part of me, the brother part, had felt a twinge. A tiny, unwelcome echo of shared childhoods of scraped knees and whispered secrets before ambition had twisted her into someone I barely recognized. But then, clear as day, I'd see Dad's face from that same meeting, the quiet devastation she'd carved into his features. And I'd hear her voice, dripping with that signature condescension from the day she fired me, you just don't have what it takes, Ethan, this is a new era, . Yeah, a new era alright. One where I finally realized that having what it takes wasn't about being the loudest voice in the room or the one with the flashiest title. It wasn't about brute force or backstabbing. It was about the quiet strength, the bedrock. The integrity. And it turned out I had exactly what it took to dismantle her house of cards and save what truly mattered. I had what it took to be the foundation she'd so arrogantly dismiss. It wasn't about rubbing her nose in it, not really. Not anymore. That initial, burning desire for pure, unadulterated revenge. It had cooled, simmered down into something clear. Something that felt a hell of a lot like justice. Dad's hotels weren't just surviving, they were thriving, better than ever, setting new standards under the Commonwealth banner but with their original spirit intact. The staff, good people I'd worked alongside for years, they all kept their jobs, the future secure. That asterisk was the real victory. That was the legacy Dad would have wanted, the one he actually built. Not some hollow shell named after her ego. Funny thing is, I sleep better now than I have in years. No more churning stomach, no more waking up wondering what new betrayal the day would bring. There's a peace in knowing you did the right thing, even if the path to it was paved with heartache and a hell of a lot of late nights poring over contracts and planning counter moves. That quiet satisfaction. It's better than any shouting match or public takedown. Sometimes, looking out at the city, I wonder if she ever truly got it. If, somewhere in the wreckage of her ambition, Chloe finally understood. You can't build a skyscraper on a rotten foundation. You can't dismiss the guy who knows every single joist and beam, every hidden wire, every single property line, and expect to stay standing. She aimed for the stars, my sister. But she forgot that even rockets need a launch pad, something solid beneath them. And she tried to blow hers up on the way out the door. Some lessons, I guess, you only learn the hard way. And some mistakes, well, you just don't recover from. So, what was the grand takeaway from all that fire and self-inflicted ruin? A downshow wasn't about who had the fanciest title engraved on their door or the corner office with a sweeping, empty view. No. It was about the invisible stuff, the stuff that actually holds the world up, integrity, plain and simple. That quiet, unshakable strength you find in people who build things, brick by honest brick, not the ones who just swing a wrecking ball powered by nothing but their own ego. Chloe, bless her ambitious, misguided heart, she finally learned that, didn't she? The hard way. The only way some people ever learn. She learned that underestimating the quiet one in the room, the one who knows where every single skeleton is hidden, and more importantly, where every single goddamn property line is drawn, that's not just a bad call. That's a free fall without a parachute. A mistake you don't recover from ever. And sometimes, late at night, when the city finally breathes, a thought just hits me to yeah, Chloe. You should have remembered the bedrock. You should have remembered who laid it. Asterisk, some people just have to learn by watching their own empires turn to ash.